Keep your hair.
Delete that.
In
You're
this
done.
podcast.
You're done.
And my...
Shut up and sit down.
Cool. All right. Welcome to another episode of another one of these, the podcast. This is our very first in-person podcast. Keep your hair.
Delete that. You're
In-person
done.
podcast.
You're done.
And my guest here is Drishtee by Hittoo.
Thank you, Kashish. So I am Drishtee, and I have been invited for a podcast with Kashish, and yeah, I'm very honored. Thank you.
Where are you from, Drishtee?
I'm from Mauritius originally, so I came here in 2019, and yeah.
She is Indian. You're not mistaken. She has Indian origins, but she just grew up, born and brought up in Mauritius.
Yeah.
Recently moved to Auckland, studying tourism.
Studying Bachelor of Tourism Management. I'm on my second year.
Second year, so yeah. And yeah, so in this podcast we'll probably be talking about, definitely will be talking about mental health issues, the lack of mental health awareness in brown families, growing up in a brown family and facing those issues, or even now, still happening. And yeah, and maybe reflect on some other current affairs if we have the time.
Yeah.
And might be a two-parter like the last episodes, which was quite controversial.
Well.
Fun. Very fun. To all the people that listened to the last podcast and reached out to me expressing their grievances, I'm not going to apologize to you, but it is what it is,
Yeah.
if the shoe fits.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's begin. So, mental health, thoughts?
Thoughts on mental health, I would say, is it's not very much talked about. It's like when you think mental health, people think it's a nice topic to talk about, but rather forget about the actual, impacts that mental health have on other people.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it would be good if more people took interest in finding out exactly what mental health is and how you can help someone.
Yeah.
Because so many people say, "Oh, you're stressed, just forget about it." Like,
Just doesn't happen.
it doesn't happen like that.
Yeah. Always reminds me of a phrase. Back in India, we have these, especially Punjabis. If you're depressed, just drink it off. Drink it off. Cheers. And sure, it works for a while. It's not a very healthy coping mechanism, but it will work for a good while there. But eventually, and speaking from personal experiences, you will have to face the issue after you're done drinking your liver out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very common misconception. Not a misconception. It's just the lack of awareness and the generation gap that comes with it.
Mm.
That our parents or people that are same age as our parents just don't believe in mental health.
Yeah, that's another issue.
Yeah.
Not believing. How would you improve on something if you don't believe in it
Yeah.
firsthand?
Yeah. They think that depression is something that is a choice or something that doesn't exist. It's just a way or an excuse that children have been using nowadays because they're not studying enough. Study is a big thing back in India. Even you might know, growing up in a brown family,
Yeah.
you're pressurized to get good marks or get into a good college, and that itself has driven the suicide rates up way too much. Like the pressure from parents to get their kids into engineering entrances or MBBS entrances and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
gets to their heads, and they end up just taking their own lives because they can't take the pressure or the fact that they can't take the fact that they're going to disappoint their parents,
Yeah.
which they would rather kill themselves rather than face their
And
parents.
face, yeah.
And to that, a lot of people have to say that they were cowards. And what do you have to say about that?
I think the way you just said excuse, parents think it's an excuse.
Yeah.
I think that itself is a stigma. You just shut down the child. As soon as you say, oh, you're using it as an excuse rather than delving deep into what might be happening, it's more harmful. Rather than sitting with the child saying, okay, tell me what's happening, you know.
Yeah.
But mainly because themselves, they don't know if they're struggling with any mental illness. So how would they do that with their kid as if?
Yeah. Again, another one of the things that come with, because when you grow up in a family that does not believe in depression or anxiety, somehow you also grow up with the mindset that you don't believe in depression and anxiety, and the cycle continues. So that when you have kids in the future and then you tell them there's no such thing as depression, just suck it up and move on.
Yeah.
That's the word. That's a cycle that needs to be broken immediately, because it's still happening. And it's still happening in people. I've noticed it in people in my batch that are about to have kids. They still believe in the fact that depression isn't a real thing, which scares me for their kids that they're about to have.
Exactly.
Also, the fact that they're having kids scares me, because you're 25, what is wrong with you?
Well, that's maybe their personal choice. But
Yeah.
The generational trauma that comes with it needs to be broken, as if.
Yeah. And another one of these quotes that comes from same thing, this is specifically regarding to guys, is that boys don't cry. Ladke nahi rote, what they say, like in Hindi. And which confuses me. Thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a very shitty and outdated way of thinking. Because to this day, boys think that they cannot express themselves, which is so bad.
Yeah.
You know, because we're all humans at one level, and why would you say, okay, girls cry a lot? That's also a stigma.
That's also a stigma. The ladkiyan to roti rehti hain, girls keep crying a lot. Yeah.
But then it's like on two levels, and you're not. Rather than balancing it out and expressing it as a human emotion, you are maybe as if like balancing both of girls and boys. You don't cry, you cry too much. You don't cry, you don't. What the
Exactly. And it's not even that. It's not even you don't cry. It's like you're not supposed to cry.
Yeah.
It's like you're not. What is that supposed to mean? You're not supposed to cry. Where did that come from? I want to know. Is that somehow the fact that they're not crying makes them tough? Whereas, if you think about it, a person that can actually express his emotions and is self-aware ends up making him tougher than the ones who hold back their emotions and then get damaged internally over the long run.
Yeah. It's like you yourself, you're gonna get damaged. You know, why would you do that to yourself?
Yeah.
But the thing about the people telling boys right from the start, don't cry. You're not supposed to cry. It's a dysfunctional thing, you know.
Yeah, which needs to be stopped.
Yeah, and typically in Desi families, it's big issues.
Yeah.
So, we know you're not gonna raise your kid to be like that. I'm not gonna raise my kid to be like that.
Yeah. Another thing is, what was I gonna say?
But for me, when I think dysfunctional families, every family has a problem. You know, every family goes through stress, but there's a difference in a family having a dysfunction and a dysfunctional family that just gets out of, you know.
Yeah.
So handling that is something really important, because as a child, when you see your parents grow up, and that's fucked up.
I read this, coincidentally, I read this last night on Instagram. I saw a post somewhere which said, when you grow up in a dysfunctional family, you tend to be attracted to toxic people, because you grow up looking at them and how they function, and because you don't have anything else to compare them to. You remember how at times when we talk, I ask about how do certain girls or even guys get attracted to toxic traits of their significant others, and it never made sense to me until I read that post, which now makes sense, that when people grow up in dysfunctional families, and this is a very common thing, people tend to not talk about stuff back in India. It's like, we're just not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And when they don't talk about it, they think that this is the general norm for things. So they're like, this is just how things are, and this is just how my relationship's going to be. Which means that if a girl grew up watching her dad beat up her mom,
Mm-hmm.
and then gets into a relationship and the boyfriend beats her up,
Yeah.
she's going to think that it is okay
Mm-hmm.
and it is accepted
Yeah.
that the guy can beat the girl up.
Yeah.
And that I think is where the toxicity comes.
Yeah. And I also think it's when you experience it as a child,
Mm-hmm.
you know how sometimes trauma can be stored in the body?
Yeah.
So, you've seen the cycle, you've got like an adrenaline rush. So when you're going to experience that, it's going to seem familiar to you.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like, oh, that's not normal. You've seen it, body says, oh, I love what I see because I've been through that. So you stick with it,
Yeah. It's because you've seen that all your life, and as they say, the early growing stages are very crucial to our development when we're kids.
Yeah.
And what we see and what we absorb and what we grasp during that stage is something that probably stays with us forever.
Yeah. What do you think about parents who beat up their kids, or even though we grew up,
we probably got beat up as kids a lot.
we got beat up as kids, but it's a totally
It's different. Now this is gonna sound very weird, but there's different ways of beating up kids. You agree? There's
more.
actually I don't know. It's very difficult to explain. I was beat up as a kid.
Yeah.
But I don't have any trauma from it because I knew I was at fault when I was beat up. But does that mean that that's the way to discipline kids? Probably not. But the reason that I was because they were when they were kids. Now that I know, I'll probably not do it.
Yeah.
Definitely not do it. But I'm not gonna blame them, my parents, because I don't have any trauma because of that. But then I've seen people. I've never seen people with marks and blood coming out of their noses and bruises all over their bodies, and that's what I call toxic beating. With me, it would be like a slap or something. It's like a casual slap or chasing around the dining table to get eventually a slap, and it would end there. And which I think I'm not saying it's okay, but at that time, was alright. But then there are parents and the dads who beat up their kids with belts, with sticks, with fucking brooms, with fucking everything they can get their hands on, and their kids end up bruised and stuff, and that's what I call. Do you know where I'm going with the difference?
I know where you're going, because sometimes your body, people. That's why when I say parents as well, they go through different circumstances. You cannot say this is going to happen, that is going to happen.
Exactly.
And if your parents, we cannot even blame parents because we know where it came from. They might have had their own issues, which is not justified, by the way, but in some sense. But I do understand like how you're telling me. For you, you don't consider it as trauma because as a child you didn't, you knew you were at fault, so makes sense you get it.
Also, it wasn't a very recurring thing. It was every once in a while, and it stopped after I grew up. It was only when, as a kid, I used to get beat up a lot. But I was a fucked up kid. Like, come on, I used to do all this crazy shit, and I'm like probably deserved half of the time that more than half of the time that I would beat up.
Yeah.
And like I would get my mother would get calls from the principal all the time. Your kid is acting up and stuff like that. Which is sure, I was a naughty kid. But then again, belts and fucking. Okay, I'll simplify it. The intention is what matters a bit. If your parents' intention by beating you up is to make you realize that you've been at fault, that they're not trying to hurt you. Then there are parents who are actually trying to hurt their kids. And that's where the difference lies. I always felt that when I got beat up, their intention wasn't to hurt me, it was to punish me, but never to physically hurt me.
Physically hurt you.
Yeah.
Maybe to discipline.
Discipline me. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So I think therein lies the difference.
Well, as a child, I was not. I don't remember. Mom,
Girls
Dad, if you're watching this, no, don't say that.
I've seen it first time. Not as much as boys do.
I can't say that for sure. But yeah, I was not raised up to get beaten by my parents and stuff. So
just good.
Concerning beating up, because I was a good kid. Mom and Dad, you guys can...
Yeah, good job, Mr. and Mrs. Hittoo.
Vouch me on that, because I was not a naughty kid. I was, but not in ways I would get beaten.
She was a nerd in high school.
I was not a nerd in high school.
She was class monitor, class rep. She still is class rep.
Well, that doesn't... I'm not a nerd, Kashish.
But yeah, growing up, because I belong from a joint family, and growing up with sisters, you can tell the difference. Which I never really questioned, the fact that girls get beaten up less than boys. They also behaved more than us, so rightfully so.
Oh well.
And which was
Fascinating for
it was
you. Like, how do I
fascinating.
get beaten up but no then?
I never really questioned it because, like, I was a
That's
menace.
good, to be honest.
Yeah, I never even like, oh, why aren't you beating Masoom, or why aren't you beating Manzila? Like, because they're not creating a nuisance like I am.
There we go.
I'm the menace of the family.
Yeah, but the moment that you can, as a child, you can see that you are being treated unfairly as compared to your siblings. As a child, you won't know. You question in your head will be like, why am I being treated like that?
Yeah.
You know, but
Yeah.
it's good that in
Never
your
really
case,
questioned because I never really felt it. They never really. Because they never really discriminated, and it's difficult when you have 4 kids in the family, my brother and then 2 cousins. It's difficult not to discriminate, which is they did a massive good job doing that. So good job, Grover family.
Grover family, good job.
Yeah. So because I actually look back at things, we used to fight a lot as kids, all of us siblings, and they were physical. Me and my brother, because we used to fight and we used to like. It would end up in a way that either one of us would end up bleeding. I still remember there was this one time because like there's this advantage that you have when you're elder. Your hand is heavier, but then he compensates with throwing stuff.
Oh.
So he got this bottle same size as the wine, full with water, threw it here, and started bleeding. And as soon as I started bleeding, he lost his shit. Because now he knew that shit just got serious, and if parents find out that you made the other brother bleed, now you're in shit. Because as long as you keep fighting,
true,
and nothing is happening, there's no consequences, no after effects or aftermath of the decision, you're good. We just fought, we got over it. But now I'm bleeding. Now you're in deep shit.
Yeah, my sister. I used to fake being dead with my sister and my cousin.
You used to fake being dead.
Yeah, because whenever we used to fight, and then I used to be like,
Just fake being dead.
I know, just for them to freak out. So if you're watching this, I used to fake
Wow.
being dead.
Wow. You heard it here first, folks.
I think they knew. I don't know if I'm
Probably, but they
allowed
probably
to name, but
panicked for a bit.
yeah, I saw the panic and I loved it. Because they always used to not bully me, but gang up with each other, and I used to be the one. I'm not a sister.
Sociopath.
Yeah.
I still remember when it's silly. It's gonna sound silly. When I was a kid, my brother would be sleeping next to me, and I couldn't hear him breathing. So what I would do is I'd put my finger in front of his nose to make sure he's good, and I could feel the air. Every once in a while, I would not feel the air. I'm like, and then he would be like, "What do you want?" Like, nothing. I thought there was a mosquito or something.
Me too.
Let's just go back to sleep.
I always used to check my sister's pulse.
Yeah, why do we do that shit?
Maybe we're scared. We're gonna lose them.
Yeah, exactly. So even though we used to fight all the time,
Yeah, me too.
and every now and then he'd go to sleep, and I'm like, yeah, he's good. He's good.
Yeah,
he's good.
I used to check her pulse when she used to go to sleep.
There you go. We actually
Care
were
about you guys.
quite fond of you, regardless of the fact how much we fought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also with kids, because he was younger, he did not understand the repercussions of things as much as I did.
Yeah.
So I didn't used to throw stuff at him. He used to throw stuff at me.
Okay.
And it was a good thing that I was good at dodging, because this amount of stuff that he threw, if hit me, would have opened my head up.
Hospital.
Yeah. Because he would be like, when he got angry, when kids are, kids are, they just, and not kids, but I'm going to say somewhere around when they're 10, 11-ish, they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
They're going to get angry and they're going to start throwing shit. They're going to get violent.
Yeah.
And he would throw like heavy stuff. We would have these toy trucks and the whole Optimus Prime, he would
Oh my
throw me
goodness.
on.
What were you doing?
Violent kid, man. And then I would always hold back in fights, and he still doesn't know that. I've never told him this. I would always hold back on fights because I knew back at that, because I have a slight advantage. I'm 6 years older than him. 4 years older than him.
Yeah.
4 or 5 years older than him.
Saw yourself out.
Somewhere I'm older than him,
Yeah.
so I have a slight advantage with the height and the stuff and like that, and so I would hold back, but I don't think he knew
He
that
knew.
because he didn't hold back.
Yeah.
You little shit.
Maybe if he knew, he would be more,
Considerate.
No, I was gonna say more like, how dare you be, let's fight equal. He'll be more.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Eventually, you grew up and the fights got equal, but then eventually the fights just stopped. Because when you grow up, fights just
Yeah, you don't
stop.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, with my sister, we always used to argue about taking each other's clothes. So I woke up wearing her clothes. She'd be like, "What are you wearing? That's mine."
See, with brothers, that never happens.
Well, it's different,
I know. With us, I remember I was visiting India in 2019. I went to India and I got a new pair of Yeezys. And I went home and I'm like, look what I got.
Yeah.
And he was getting ready for a party. And he's like, can I wear them? I'm like, yeah. Fresh pair of Yeezys, never worn before.
Yeah.
He wanted to wear it too. I'm like, go for it.
Mm.
It's just something like that.
Yeah.
So, never had that issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a girl thing. I've noticed that before.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. You're in post editing, when you're in Final Cut Pro, that you can just go and click this thing that clear background noises, and it just does just like that.
Yeah. You'll have to teach me all of that because one day maybe I'll do my own podcast.
Yeah, of course.
To
The
do
wonders
that.
of modern technology.
Mm. And you'll be a guest on my podcast, maybe?
Yeah.
Of course you will.
Of course I will.
Yeah.
The video from Vedas.
Oh, yeah. I watched it.
You
And
watched it?
to be honest, I have no idea why people are against that.
Because he's
Maybe
telling
people
the truth.
who are.
Because he's telling the truth. Okay, I'm gonna play the devil's advocate because I love to do it in every podcast.
Okay.
The devil's advocate, for people that don't know, means that I'm going to play the side of the wrong ones. According to us, the people that are bashing Vedas and filing FIRs against him, death threats are wrong. So I'm going to play the devil's advocate. Vedas went to another country, defamed the reputation of my country. I'm not even going to say our country because that's how the sentence is formed.
Yeah.
Defamed the name and image of my country, insulted my country in one of the biggest stages, and it was the Kennedy State Center, one of the biggest stages in the world, with a big audience, and insulted the values and values and things that my nation represents.
So that's
the devil's advocate thing.
Yeah. For me, it's like, why don't you see it in a way that your country needs some improvement? I don't come from India, but the
You've got
people,
your views.
Yeah, I've got my own views. So people telling him, filing FIRs and stuff like that means you're completely unaware of what's happening in your country.
Because none of what he said was incorrect.
There we go. There was a touch of humor, but a lot of truth added to it.
None of what he said was incorrect. None of what was said throughout the video was incorrect. So, what was the grievance? What was the point?
Maybe it's inability to acknowledge the fact that you might be doing something wrong,
Or there's things that might actually be wrong with the country.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually, as we speak, trying to look up. Okay, I found it. He goes, I come from India, where praying on roads is allowed, but celebrating festivals comes once a year is banned. I think here he's talking about Diwali. So every year on Diwali, because the pollution of the country, or basically Delhi in particular, has reached to a level where it's every time it's Diwali, the bursting of crackers is banned because it really plays with the pollution and the air quality goes really bad.
Yes.
But all the other times, during Christmas, people
Yeah.
burst crackers. Every time India wins from Pakistan, people burn crackers. In multiple areas, when their political party wins, they burn crackers. They don't say anything about that.
Mm.
I'm not saying that they should burn. They should not burn. Oh, sorry, they should burn crackers on Diwali. They shouldn't.
Yeah.
The India is a polluted country. Delhi is one of the most polluted cities in the world.
Yeah.
I think instead of banning it on Diwali, they should just ban crackers altogether from India.
Mm.
You know, because if you're doing it at one festival and then you're doing it throughout the year, it just makes you hypocritical. Yeah.
To be honest, about the banning firecrackers thing, when you're a child, you don't know you enjoy cracking, but when you grow up and then you actually realize
You're
pollution,
just bursting money.
money, pollution, and pets.
They're
I've seen that.
scared. They're so scared
They're
of
so
the
scared. I've never thought about it up and until I saw my own dog being Denver Rao. I love you. Being so scared. I remember my sister sending me a snap, and he was so scared, and I'm like, no. You won't see me burn firecrackers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What else did?
He said, I come from India where we worship women during the day and gang rape them at night.
I've seen documentaries on Netflix, and I was horrified is an understatement, and I just felt like,
Where's the lie though? That's what I'm asking. Where's the lie?
yeah,
Is it not very? It's not a thing that people get raped women get raped in India. Is there not a national phenomenon that girls should not leave after it gets dark at night? Do you not tell your sisters, your mothers, your aunts, and all the women in your family not to leave alone after dark at the risk that they might get molested or raped? So where is the lie?
Yeah.
And the first statement being we worship women during the day. A lot of goddesses are women.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the lie? I come from an India where we scoff at sexuality and yet fuck till we reach 1 billion people. Sex is frowned upon in India.
Why is it a taboo?
Why is it a taboo?
I don't know.
You guys are fucking day and night. The minute you get inside a room and lock the doors, you fuck till the end of the day. And the minute someone finds out, it's a taboo. Ooh, you're having sex. Bro, how do you think babies are born? Do you think just someone delivers them from the sky? Is it the seagulls?
Also, the sexuality thing, if you think you're bi or you're lesbian or you're gay.
Until, couple of years ago, 4 years ago? Same-sex marriages or same-sex were illegal. So if you were a gay, lesbian or bi, you would have been arrested for sleeping with the same-sex person. That was a crime until a couple of years ago. I come from an India where we bleed blue every time we play green, but every time we lose to green, we turn orange all of a sudden.
That's the India-Pakistan
India-Pakistan,
cricket?
yeah. Recently, we lost to Pakistan in the World Cup, and there were numerous controversies back in India because there were people that were celebrating Pakistan's win and chanting Pakistan Zindabad, Pakistan Zindabad, who were later, every single one of them was arrested on the charge of being anti-nationals.
How?
Thoughts?
How?
What do you mean how?
Just if you say it, how are you?
So if you know how India and Pakistan have been at war for since 1947.
I've seen it mainly, in movies and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So
but the idea is that ever since the partition happened in 1947, we have been at war with Pakistan. No. Ever since 1947, Pakistan has been at war with India.
Over the Kashmir?
Over the Kashmir. Because when I say we have been at war with Pakistan, that's not correct because we have made our peace with the fact that whatever Kashmir belongs to us. It's them that are not happy with their portion of Kashmir and keeps initiating fights every time to acquire that little piece of land of Kashmir. Millions of people, thousands and millions of people die every time they try to initiate a war, and the whole stigma around is that it ends up somehow in cricket, which is a sport.
Yeah.
So, since the past 12 years, India has never lost to Pakistan in a World Cup match.
No.
This year was the first time India lost, and terribly as well. They played terrible.
I didn't
Pakistan
watch.
played well. Sue me. They played well. You guys weren't prepared.
So they deserve the credit then.
But what happened after? And I'm conflicted about this point. When what happened after is that people started bursting crackers because Pakistan won. They started celebrating.
So
and
who are the people? I have to interrupt.
Muslims in India.
Muslims in India.
In India.
Okay.
Started bursting crackers, starting celebrating, and it was okay until then. Then they started chanting Pakistan Zindabad, which means long live Pakistan, loosely translated.
Yeah.
That's when every single one of them got arrested, they got charged with being anti-national. There's actually a thing in the Constitution of India where
I was wondering. Okay.
yeah, where you get charged if you're not supporting, because it's a thing.
I don't think I have much to say on that because I won't, for me, if they are Pakistan's in the body, maybe I'm not an Indian, maybe I don't know. Maybe is it disrespectful thing for you guys, or maybe according to the constitution you were telling me?
It is. Also, I've got two opinions on it. It is disrespectful to chant Zindabad, Pakistan Zindabad. It is very disrespectful. Not because we lost a match to Pakistan, because of the thousands of people that die every time they initiate a war. A war which is unnecessary, we don't need it, it's over a petty piece of land. We've established over the past 60 years of independence that they're not going to get it, yet they keep trying. And in the process, they see when a war happens, both sides lose
Both
men.
sides, yeah.
Which is not necessary. You don't need that little piece of land. What are you going to do with it? So I agree on the fact that that's wrong. It's disrespectful. Because of the army, you got to be respectful to the defense of the country. They literally sacrifice their lives so that you can sleep in peace on the borders. So it's disrespectful in that way. But bringing cricket into it, I don't understand that concept. You disrespect them away in a war issue, it's different. But you using cricket as a strand to do it, I don't understand. I come from an India that has the largest working population under 30 on the planet, but still listens to 75-year-old leaders with 150-year-old ideas.
Even in my country, you'll see people, still in position, not willing to give up, But,
never happens. Politicians never leave their positions.
But gotta give way more room for our thinking. Because I know a lot of older people will be like, oh, this generation.
Yeah.
But it's not actually the truth. If you take the time to listen to us, we do provide certain thinking, creative thinking that you could use some to improve. But yeah.
Yeah. And then he ends the video with, if I come from an India that is going to watch this and say this isn't stand-up comedy, where's the goddamn joke? And yet I come from an India which will watch this and know there's a gigantic joke that just isn't funny.
Yeah. That part gave me chills when everyone kept clapping. I got chills around my body.
Yeah, and if you read the threads, it says, would it make a difference if he said what he said on an Indian stage? Because
People would laugh, maybe.
I think it wouldn't be that big of an issue. I think the whole concept of people having an issue with him that he went to the Kennedy Stadium in a different country, in one of the biggest economies of the world, and talked smack about my country or our country. That was one of the biggest things that. But regardless of the fact, he's still speaking the truth, isn't he?
Exactly. Yeah.
So would it have made a difference if he said it in the home country?
You guys let us know.
Let us know in the comments. The stuff I see, the people shaming and enraging on Veer Das for delivering to India's monologue in Washington are those kind of people who tell their daughters, बेटी चाचू ने जो किया वो घर के अंदर की बात है, बाहर किसी को बताना मत.
Thinking of that, I get reminded of a very nice movie. Alia Bhatt, Falling in Love, Highway.
Highway.
That part got me.
Randeep Hooda.
Hmm?
Randeep Hooda, the guy. Yeah.
That part gets me emotional every time
Mhm.
because that's what you're saying. Like those are the people who's gonna say to the girl, whatever happens in the family stays in the family.
Don't talk
don't
about
talk about it, which is fucked up again.
So fucked up.
Sorry, fucked up again.
It is.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
That should be our concluding note.
Yeah. With that in mind, thank you for being a guest on the very first
Thank
in-person.
you. Oh yeah, in
Podcast.
person. Yeah. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah.
And
And,
I'm very much passionate about this one because when you struggle with it, then you know it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really nice.
It was fun. And until next time, guys, thank you for listening.
Thank you
Don't
very
forget
much.
to like, subscribe, share, and don't send me any messages regarding the podcast.
And maybe wait for my podcast.
Yeah. Look forward to her podcast.